Bases dropped. Sorry about 9:06. Was doing stuff in the green room and getting my caffeine ready. John here. Matty Cruz in the ones and twos. You there. Tyler Pilgrim coming up for his traditional Wall Pass Wednesday visit coming up in short order. We'll talk about Atlanta United. We'll talk about whatever else is on Tyler's mind on a Wall Pass Wednesday. We'll talk about whatever's on your mind on a Wall Pass Wednesday. Remember, any topic on the table doesn't necessarily matter. It doesn't have to be about soccer. So anything that is stuck in your proverbial craw that you want to get into this morning. Hopefully, Dylan Butler, the busiest man in media in the Northeast, can join us at 10 o'clock. We got stuff to talk about. We got stories. We got Champions League. We got the Triple C from last night where Philadelphia got taken back behind the woodshed. We got soccer. We got high school to talk about. It was a great night last night at the Battle of Five Forks Trickham with Brookwood and with Parkview. But I have decided to make an executive decision. This is the opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's the QR code for those of you who are watching, however you are accessing us this morning. If it is on the YouTubes, if it's on Twitch, or if it is on the 280-character app. Don't forget, use that QR code. Don't forget to use the code soccer down here 15. You get 15% off so you can kick off your day. See what I did there? With our friends from Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. They in turn take 10%. Reinvested into youth games, youth initiative stuff that they have earmarked that is cool, kind of like Carlito, Caribbean cool, but larger than that. So stuff that they've earmarked, very, very cool stuff. Once again, from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So wasting no time, Jarrett's hopping in here as well. And Jarrett, we welcome Maddie back from vacation, if you want to call it that, because she was still working. She was catching up with the head coach of the Richmond Kickers, Darren Sawatsky, while she was lounging on a beach somewhere. But yes, Maddie has now officially returned to be in charge of the ones and twos.
Well, somebody has to keep this thing moving, so.
Yes. So Maddie, what did you do while you were gone?
Pretty much like you said, I just lounged on the beach. That was what I did. It was a needed break. It was a needed break, especially before everything starts picking up again really soon. But yeah, no, I still worked.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like I said, you had the interview with Darren Sawatsky, the head coach of the Richmond Kickers, as USL League One's getting underway. But we're going to have Tyler Pilgrim coming up in just a little bit. Jarrett, do you want to start with the kickoff? Do you want to start with our friends in the CONCACAF Champions Cup extravaganza from last night?
Sure, why not?
To say that the results were somewhat one-sided might be an insult to some kinds of how do we phrase this? To some kinds of shapes that we learn about in geometry class.
It was like watching the SoCon Challenge Week in Week 9 of the SEC slate.
Yeah. It was a bit of a long slog last night if you're a fan of Major League Soccer. And to give you an example of that, it was Tigres and Orlando City. They were the late game. So I guess we'll work backwards a little bit. Tigres, and here's the headline from our friends at CONCACAF. Tigres attacking quality proves too much for Orlando City. Game was 2-1 at the break, finished 4-2, and so Tigres gets a goal and an assist from Gignac, and they win 4-2 in the second leg at home, and that result means that they go through on aggregate 4-2, and they're in the quarters, and they're going to face Crew. And Crew in Houston, they were the early match, and Crew got through there. The match that I want to talk about is the one that happened in the middle of the evening. And
why are you going to be mean to Rich like that?
Well, but it's the larger question that I want to get at this morning as one of our topics. And yeah, Rich, pass. Yeah. Rich basically is like pass. So what I want to get into here, and I'll get through the final score and everything. It was 6-0. 6. One more than 5 on your way to 7. 6-0 by the time it was done. Solomon Rondon had a hat trick to help power Pachuca to that 6-0 win. And that means that they get, meaning Pachuca, the winner of Herediano and Robin Hood in the next round. Nothing like Herediano and Robin Hood getting your next opponent. So the window is there now for Pachuca to really to get to the Final Four. So Pachuca advances, but it was 6-0. And I guess the larger question that I have here for both of you, and I guess this will be our Wall Pass Wednesday question, is, and there have been a lot of folks who have said, okay, in a situation like this where an MLS team gets taken behind the woodshed in the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza, you got to fix things if you're Major League Soccer.
But we didn't have to fix things last year when MLS teams were taking League MX team behind the woodshed. It's going to change year to year. Everyone changes their narrative year to year based on whether or not an MLS team wins or not. Like we're gonna keep having that. We're gonna keep shifting this conversation year to year based on the results. These are two weird results. I mean, look, Orlando went in Tigres, a good Tigres team, and got beat. Gillespie has looked pretty mid for half the season, as David mentioned. Like, Gillespie has made some damn mistakes this year. He does not look like the guy who was an absolute monster. Philadelphia, I maintain my question with Philadelphia from the preseason. That you're running it back for the third year in a row,
right?
And those legs are not getting any younger. I think Rich mentioned this. I think we were talking about it. When it comes to like just league, I think Philly will be fine.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll be like winning the Shield. I'll happy to eat my words if they do. But like just in league competition, they'll be fine. But man, like this 2024 Philly team isn't built to go to Mexico and compete in league matches and compete in street fights in Mexico and do this and do that. They're just not built for that. They'll be fine in league play. They'll win some games. They won't go to the playoffs. They'll be an absolute pain in the ass to deal with for everyone because their chemistry is going to be through the roof and their assholery is going to be through the roof. And I mean that in the most complimentary form fashion for a Jim Curtin team.
Yeah.
But man, they ain't built for this right now.
No.
So it's two unique situations. And yes, we absolutely want MLS teams to invest more. But I love that all of the roaches come out of the woodwork whenever an MLS team loses a big game on the road like that. And when it starts snowballing downhill on you, as everyone saw Saturday night, when it starts snowballing, it snowballs real damn fast.
Yes. And so that narrative kicked back up again last night. There were some folks in the media that is social who were sitting there saying, oh, you've got to raise the salary cap. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. Circling back to the same things that we continue to talk about in these situations. And it's the elephant in the room. We know that Major League Soccer has to adjust things in the salary cap beyond just, what was it, an 8% increase in the cap going from year to year internally. We know that you've got to take the governor out of the golf cart. You got to pull the golf tee out to make sure that the engine can go and you can go screaming around the corner if you want to. But I think more importantly is that you have to have a floor when it comes to any kind of salary cap adjustment. So, Maddie, like I said, I don't know how much of the Triple C that you got to look at with this previous round, but you're now with a round where it's Pachuca and Philly, and Pachuca goes through, and they're waiting for Robin Hood and Herediano, and you've got some other matchups on the 13th and 14th here, and probably the biggest one that folks are going to be paying attention to is Messi and Friends in Nashville, and that one's going to be a fun one tonight as well.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I feel like this happens every year. I mean, like Jarrett was saying, it's like it switches every year. To me, they're just complaining because they didn't win. And I'm like, and you should have won. I'm sorry. You did. If you really thought that you had the talent to do it, you should have won. The fact that Philadelphia lost 6-0, like that's bad. I'm sorry. Like, that's really embarrassing. And I mean, I think they should be embarrassed. They should try to come back into this one and do it. But I'm like, you can't keep, what else is there to blame? Like, I get that the salary cap does need to be changed, but what else can you blame?
I don't know what the environment was last night. I'm looking up the starting lineup for Philadelphia, and let me bring in Tyler Pilgrim here into this discussion now that he's had to sip from his cup of coffee. So, Tyler, we've gone completely and totally philosophical for opening kickoff to kind of work things out.
Sweet.
we were kind of discussing what was going on in the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza last night, where it wasn't really a good night. I mean, you had two MLS teams going up against each other, so somebody was obviously going to advance. And then Tigres behind Gignac, who gets paid like $9 gazillion a year to stay at Tigres. Tigres, there was 2-1 at the break, 4-2 final. So Tigres advances, knocking off Orlando City, and the purple team's going to be coming here to Atlanta. But then I know that everyone in the spotlight is drawn to that 6-0 from Philadelphia last night, and we're trying to solve the world's problems today when it comes to Major League Soccer and trying to compete in this tournament. And to Jarrett's point, it is cyclical, but then you had everybody with the warning sirens again sitting there, taking out the civil defense helmets and everything and making sure that everybody had their mattresses and was in their bathtubs when it came to the competition last night, because Philly got whacked. And so obviously everybody's sitting there going, oh, you've got to fix the salary cap. You got to do this. You got to do that. So we're trying to solve the world's problems on a cyclical nature. What did you think about what happened last night, and how would you address the issues currently that face Major League Soccer that are part of a larger discussion when it comes to CONCACAF?
First of all, it's always a good day when you wake up and Philly and Orlando have gotten walloped. I don't care who does it. It makes me so happy. And also, I know Philly is complaining, saying whatever, repeating everything about the salary cap and this and that and the other. I get it.
This is also national media figures who were sitting there saying, and I think it was Michele Giannone from Tudene who was saying it, you've got to raise the salary cap. You've got to fix these problems. Rawr. That was the only thing that was missing, was the rawr as a part of the whole.
It's a valid point. I get it. But right now, I just want to enjoy this. I will point out that Atlanta beat Pachuca in the world famous AmFam Cup in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not the best team. And it was also a year plagued with injuries.
Right.
And we didn't get beat 6-0, just saying.
Okay.
So I don't know. But I think 6-0, there's no excuse really. I mean, we can talk about the salary cap and everything else. 6-0 is bad.
Mm-hmm.
You just played bad. You were a bad team yesterday. And I don't think having, 2 or 3 other maybe somewhat better players would have made the difference in this game. You just didn't look good. You didn't look like you wanted to be there. So I don't know. Yeah, I know the arguments and the talking points and everything else are going to be going around, but ultimately it was just a bad soccer game for Philly, and it was a slightly less bad soccer game for Orlando. But neither one of them looked great, and I hope these teams meet again in the Leagues Cup.
Rich Ransom, our resident Philadelphia Unionite, he goes, we were not going to beat a past Liga MX champ in the second leg at home. Philly supporters knew going into the season expectations for this team were low. The whole running it back thing for the third year in a row. Here was the lineup last night, by the way, for Philly going up against Pachuca. Andre Blake in net, Harriel, Glesnes, Lowe, Wagner, Martinez, Bedoya, McGlynn, Sullivan, Gazdag, and Ua. So that's a first-choice lineup. You went all in a first choice going up against a Tigres side, and Jarrett gives us the Irish goodbye. He might try to circle back in hour number 2. It's Jarrett's signature. It's the Irish goodbye. So, so first-choice lineup, and Rich is wondering who in Philadelphia is saying these things. No one is. But I know that I think nationally, I think Rich is where the discussion is about Philadelphia running it back for the third year in a row, and looking at the comments of Jim Curtin preseason and these kinds of things. But the larger point, I think, is much like every other tournament that we know, it's luck of the draw, figuring out the bracket, and navigating the road game, I think, more than anything else, and not putting yourself in a position to where if you have to have that second leg on the road in a hostile environment, that you've got to dig yourself out of a hole in the first place. All of these things that we know in tournaments, you can't have go against you to prep yourself for these second legs.
Yeah, I mean, I also don't think you can place the full blame on Philly. This goes for Orlando, too.
Oh, no.
I mean, both teams could have come in there and played well, and neither of them did. were very much below average for both sides. And I think it's nationally, but I think they're using Philadelphia as the standpoint just because of the goal difference. I think that's why it's such an emphasis on it, because of how like big that goal difference is. But I mean, it goes both ways. I mean, I think both teams, they could have played better. I mean, I think they both had that, especially with Philly not being able to play in the MLS regular season because they had the game was stopped due to weather.
Right. And so you had to get out of town, and they've got to figure out that rescheduling too. And I'm trying to go quickly and figure out what the Orlando lineup was. Trying to zoom as quickly as it possibly can. The player stats. You got me?
I got you.
All right, hit me.
The lineup for Orlando, you had Muriel up top, Angulo, Ladero, Torres, Cartagena, Martins, Thorhalson, Brecalo, Janssen, Smith, and then Galese in goal.
Okay, so that that's fairly first choice.
Yeah.
So once again, you're pushing all your chips to the center of the table, trying to move on, but didn't work for them as well. And Rich, this was a point that we had, and I would suggest for anybody that wants to. We actually did a deep dive into the Philadelphia situation in the preseason. And so Rich says 50% Jim, 50% the front office, still not giving him the tools to win. And we actually came up, I think it was like a 45-minute deep dive into the situation. And the bottom line is, even though they're investing, the owners might have to be in a situation where they need to sell to have somebody else who has deeper pockets to help Philadelphia out, bring in the talent that they're having to spend on, but spend more on, like other clubs that we know intimately, in addition to the academy situation, which, kind of like other teams that we know intimately have been able to do that as well. So then let me ask, Tyler, is there an easy fix here when it comes to these situations with MLS teams, or does it come down to all those variables that we've been talking about, you think?
I mean, I don't think there's an easy answer. I think, Keith Costigan, I actually saw a tweet that he put out, I think after the Philly match, and it was essentially talking about how Philly has, and to your point, they've just remained stagnant over the past couple of years. They had such a great, 2020, 2021. And then, not that they've been bad since then, but they just haven't done anything to grow. And he said, you can't just rely on the academy to do everything for you, because you never know at what point those players will hit their ceiling, or at least hit their temporary ceiling, right? You'll always have a year or two where maybe you don't improve as much as you want to as a player. But I think he's right. MLS, you have to hit on both sides. You have to spend some money and go out and get talent. And then you have to have a good academy. And I always go back to Tyler Wolff last year in Orlando. I was at that game, and we did the post-match interview. He scored the tying goal almost in stoppage, close to stoppage.
Right.
Made it 1-1. And we talked to Brad and we talked to Tyler Wolff. And Brad mentioned that, for guys like Tyler Wolff, it's tough in this league because, with a team like Atlanta or a team like Miami or somewhere that's going to go out and spend money, it makes it tough for those guys that have come up through the academy, or the younger guys, maybe not homegrowns, but just the younger guys that have come up, because they're often going to get glossed over. So for them, they either have to put their big boy pants on and improve and really, really give a fight for those spots, or they're going to go by the wayside. And then Tyler Wolff came in there and essentially repeated the same thing and said, I've had these conversations with my dad, my brother, about going in and making the absolute most out of every opportunity. And I think if you look at Tyler Wolff's season last year, that was very much what he did. And that's what you have to do, I think, as a whole in MLS. You have to have those guys coming up through your pipeline that want to play, that they're hungry. And even if they do get 15 minutes in a match, they're going to do what they can to make the most of it. And then on top of that, you have to have your guys that you're paying big money for do big money things. And it just, none of that worked for either one of these teams yesterday.
All right. So now that we've had a couple of days, let's steer it back to Atlanta United. And now that you've had a couple of days to look at what happened, it was, I don't know, maybe it was half a Rev wedding reception. I don't know. It wasn't quite Rev wedding. It wasn't quite like a second Rev wedding. There was no divorce and getting remarried or anything like that. So maybe it was a Rev wedding reception 4-1. Now that you've had a couple days to kind of digest what you got to learn in the locker room, learn in post-match, learn at the match itself, what are some of your other takeaways from Atlanta United's win over New England on the weekend?
I think, one, this was a match where you looked at all the things that have been mentioned in the preseason and then kind of going into the season with the chemistry and the focus, like the inward focus that Pineda and the players have talked about. Like, all of that kind of came to fruition in this match. And, people talk about the first half. In the first half, it had ups and downs. I mean, it wasn't great, but it wasn't bad either. You're thankful that crossbar did its job in the first half.
That's one of the better defenders you could ever have.
It's always there.
Best friend.
But, other than that, though, like it was very much a back and forth. They were kind of feeling each other out. But then you have to remember, too, Atlanta had that 2-week break. And so I don't care what form you're in, what part of the season you're in, or what players you have on your team. You're always going to have some rust when you're kind of stopping and starting, and there's like this choppiness to the beginning of the season. Everybody's not going to be on the same page. I don't care what chemistry building, team bonding stuff you're doing. But they figured it out. And, you win the penalty, and then it opens the floodgates from there. And so I think seeing the team just do what they did, the third goal to me was like the epitome of what Pineda wants out of this team. I mean, like that, it was such a beautiful thing to watch. And I was having a heart attack in the press box watching them play out of that corner. Knowing, and not do it every time, knowing good and well like what they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I've got PTSD from the past couple of seasons, and I'm just waiting for that mistake. But they did so well, and then of course, they play it out. Brooks Lennon puts in just like the dime of a cross.
Ooh.
And then Giacomakis does what he does, and it was beautiful to see. But then I think when you go to Pineda's comments after the match about how all of that happened because of their film crew, their film review team, kind of seeing some pieces of New England's defense that they could exploit, and then putting it into play in a game, and then it coming to fruition in that beautiful goal. Like it's just things. If you can keep some semblance of that chemistry amongst the whole club, the players, coaching staff, film review guys, everything, you're going to have a good season, because it was just a thing that was fun to watch. It was fun attacking soccer, but it wasn't perfect either. I mean, we kind of chatted with Pineda yesterday at the training ground. And one of the things that I asked about was their pressing, because it seemed a little bit disorganized in this game compared to what it did in Columbus, which is funny considering the result. But he said, it was much better in Columbus. It wasn't where we wanted it. And so they were spending this week working on just some of those triggers, some of those things, because Giacomakis was getting frustrated in this match. He was getting, like visibly irritated that at times he was the one going to press and nobody was pressing with him, and vice versa. And so I think overall, though, it's a 4-1 win, and you should be happy about it. And you just, now, if you're Atlanta, you just have to maybe fine tune the little things that didn't go exactly the way you wanted them, and go from there.
Maddie Cruz for Tyler Pilgrim as Tyler takes a sip from his coffee.
What's up, Tyler? How you doing?
He's got coffee to worry about.
Yeah, got coffee. I'm really good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I think just from the aspect of how the game performed, obviously those fine-tuning things, but I think it also helps too. You play that first game, that game at home, and then you also get to play again at home this Sunday against Orlando. How do you keep that momentum going into that Sunday match, but not getting overly amped up? Because we sometimes see how, a team can come off a really great win and then you go to the next game and it kind of falls off. How do you think they need to build off and not get that rust or get in their head to, secure a win again against Orlando?
I mean, if I were the coaching staff, I would be showing those 4 goals over and over again on repeat in the training ground. But I think yeah, there has to be some tempered, conversations of just like going back to what I said a minute ago. Pineda wants this team to focus inwardly and just worry about what they can worry about and fix what they can fix and not worry so much about the outside noise. And I think you have to go into it with confidence, knowing like your plan's working. It did the job Saturday, and you had a rowdy, really big crowd there. You're still, I mean, it's not going to be 8,000 on Sunday, but you're probably going to pack out the 2 lower bowls, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think you just have to kind of, for the new guys, you have to go into the conversation saying, hey, expect more of what you had Saturday with the atmosphere and the vibes and the crowd and everything else. This was not a one-off thing. Welcome to Atlanta. This is what happens here. But then for the guys that have been here, you have to just say, hey, more of the same. Let's fine-tune the little things, fix the little things, and have an even more complete game. Maybe keep a clean sheet going into this one, but don't get big-headed about it. It's still one game.
What is the mug this morning, by the way?
It's the same. I thought about getting a different one. I'll save that one for next week. It's still Mandalorian.
All right. Okay.
I was thinking about going with the Mario Cup this morning, but
okay. I didn't know if you were an individual of ritual or if you like to juggle your mugs. I didn't know how you were.
So this is like a 90% of the time mug. This is like that everyday. Have you ever seen, what is it? Olympus Has Fallen? Is that the movie? Where I think it's that one where Morgan Freeman, he suddenly becomes like the president, after everything else happens with the president, vice president. And then he's first order of business is get me a legitimate like ceramic coffee mug because it always tastes better out of those. This is that mug for me. This is the one that it just tastes better out of.
And then Tyler Pilgrim decided that the Mandalorian was going to be the way he was going to enjoy his first cup of coffee. And Tommy, who is eavesdropping in this morning. I know I'm shocked. Orlando used a lot of energy last night, plus a late night game, plus travel home. You have to take advantage. Absolutely true. And all of those factors combining with the lineup that you used at Tigres, turning around and having to, I'm imagining flying home. And so today being Wednesday is probably just light recovery. And then Thursday is when you're going to be doing all of your stuff outdoors. Friday's probably your travel day. So basically what you're looking at is maybe a day or a day and a half for Orlando to try to reorient from getting shelled by Gignac, turning around and then having to come up here and play in an environment where they're not too highly thought of, to end a sentence in a preposition. And so I think that this is definitely one that you're going to have to take advantage of. I want to know, frankly, what the condition of the guys are for the purple team, because I want to know what the lineup is going to be for Oscar Pareja. Is he going to try and trot guys out and say, give me what you can, since we don't have the triple C to worry about anymore? Or is he going to rotate knowing that the wear and tear was there midweek? This will be the interesting question for me with Oscar Pareja.
I think, call it what we want, but I mean, it's a derby game, right? I would imagine, again, we had the same conversation last week about New England, but there's a little more hate, I think, between these two teams. So, just a little bit, I'm still waiting on stepfather Yako to show what he's about. But no, I mean, if I'm Perea, I'm trotting out the first choice if I can. I mean, you may not get 90 minutes, but try to give me 60. I think. I mean, and you do have the benefit of their game was on Tuesday, so you do have one extra day. Of course, that travel sucks.
Yes,
but yeah, I think you ask for what you can get and hope for the best. And if you're Atlanta, you just have to take advantage of it. Take advantage of it and dominate them. Yeah,
and you mentioned goal number 3, and I think that, too, once again, to Tommy's point about chemistry, I'll go ahead and flash it up here. Tommy says chemistry still building. Lennon and Gigi both were frustrated with Gregerson and where he was placing the ball to them seemed to improve in the second half. But once again, that's reps. Yeah, you're looking at reps. Reps at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground are far different when dudes are, trying to come down on you in front of 67-7-27. I mean, I think it's a little different when when points are on the line here. And once again, that only was the second match in league play where you're trying to reorient and figure out, okay, well, so-and-so wants the ball here. So-and-so wants the ball here in this situation. You've got to put it, all these kinds of things. What did you think about our new trident there at the spine with Derek and with our resident free safety Stian Gregerson and with Bart Sleesh? What did you think about their appearance in their second match together?
I thought they were great. I mean, I think there was some cleanup to do, like Tommy mentioned. It was funny because he texted me during the game and was like, Stian's passes in this first half have been really bad. But it was funny because Stian would do so well to just shut down an attack because he is so fast. He's so agile, which is really scary for how big of a guy he is. But yeah, he did everything well to be in the right places and everything else. But then I think his passes would definitely let him down. But then he started to clean it up. And as the game progressed, it felt like he kind of grew into it a little bit more, and that it was faster than it was in Columbus. And so that's what you want to see. You want to see the progression. Derek, we did our ratings thing, then put it out yesterday. I think Derek had a pretty good game. He wasn't perfect. He had a couple of little mistakes, but I think his recoveries were really, really good. And if you look at his numbers, they were, I think, above average, but it just seems like those two communicate and just get each other a lot quicker and better than some of the center back pairings we've had in the past. And then Slish, I felt like Slish just had a phenomenal game. I feel like he was exactly what you needed him to be. He was helping kind of usher New England to each side. He was kind of being that what's the word? I guess the phrase, because I know you always talk about free safety. Mm-hmm. I guess I'm trying to think of another football term that would work in this situation.
Yeah, is he your rover?
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. And he just kind of floats and then he appears and
he's your bandit back.
Yeah. And he's that additional number to give you numerical superiority on one side. And, Dax yesterday at training, he talked about how part of their whole idea was to push New England and Orlando this weekend. You want to push them out wide. You want to keep them out wide because what they want to do is play through the middle. And we go back to last season and I would lose my mind watching some of the goals that Atlanta gave up last year, where it was just that late runner into the top of the box where your number 6 should have been. And they would just appear and the ball would get played to them and nobody was there to cover them. And it was a goal. And Slish has handled that responsibility well and then some. And they all have the benefit to, and maybe sometimes this goes underrated, but they all have the benefit of speaking English. They speak the same language, right? And it just seems like the three of them are getting each other. Not perfect yet, but it's like you said, it's 2 games in. Like what you do at the training ground doesn't equate to Mercedes-Benz Stadium or wherever you're playing a real game. It helps, but it's not going to be exactly the same, variables and everything else. So I like them. There's room for improvement, but it's still, to me, way better than what you had last year.
Tyler Pilgrim from Scarves N Spikes hanging out with us on a Wall Pass Wednesday. Maddie, for Tyler, go.
Oh, so I guess we already kind of mentioned it a little bit. Orlando, it's very much a derby game. It's a rivalry in an essence of it was like the league kind of forced it a little bit, but it did end up becoming a rivalry because I am one of those people I don't like Orlando that much, but anyway.
And when you have fans decide that uprooting metal bleachers during some of the first activity at Bobby Dodd is something that fans should do, but I digress.
Yeah. No, absolutely, 110%.
Did you say that out loud?
Oops.
What?
Oops. I'm sorry. Did I mention that? Was that in my out loud voice? I'm sorry.
Dang, I thought it was in my head.
Martha.
I mean, but I guess my question's more or less not even just about the game Sunday, but do you have a moment where you were like, ooh, here's the rivalry? Like, was that a moment for you where you had that distinction of watching a game and you were like, okay, yeah, I don't like this team?
For Orlando,
Yeah.
specifically. I think for me, it actually wasn't an in-game moment.
Was it a billboard moment?
No, but that's a good shout though. That one, I think it's a mixture of all of these things, right? But the one that always sticks out to me was, and it popped up the other day when Orlando got, I think it was when they played Miami, when they got absolutely beat down.
Yeah.
But it wasn't even a meme. It was a video that Joseph Martinez put up of him eating chicken wings, and he's just like watching the game, and he's laughing. He's like, Orlando, and I died and that's still to this day every time I see that, because it was such like a forced rivalry, right? Because whatever, they were close.
Mm-hmm.
Darren Eels did some magic to do the billboard thing and everything.
Hey, you're
else.
both in the Southeast, therefore you're rivals.
Right. But Joseph Martinez and how good he played in every one of those matches is what made that quote unquote rivalry. It's what made the whole thing, because for Atlanta, it was fun because Atlanta would absolutely dominate Orlando. Had you not had Joseph and his little antics, I don't think it would have been what it has become, or kind of become. And but it's always that thing of him eating the chicken wings. It cracks me up every time I see it. And to this day, even though he's 2 teams removed from Atlanta, I still play that every time we play Orlando.
Oh, it is my favorite video ever. I also still love the photo that someone did. I think it was after the Open Cup. Someone went into Orlando's Wikipedia page and put Joseph Martinez as
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
To this day, my favorite that's ever been done.
I will add the Joseph Martinez when he sets the record at Exploria, which is what it was then, and you have what we referred to as #Bendick face when he breaks the record, goes around Joe Bendick. Bendick is on his keister and he's kind of split. He's kind of going all bunch of different directions. He's looking up and he's looking behind, and Joseph's like over the shoulder going, "Yeah, bruh." Yeah, when he set the record. So there are moments in this rivalry that have made it the rivalry that it is, and I think it's going to be once again a very interesting display when it comes to all of the variables that we have taken in for this particular rivalry. You've been at practice this week. I know that some folks were held out for load management. I feel like we're the San Antonio Spurs at times, and Gonzalo Pineda's Greg Popovich. It's like not at practice today. Why? Load management, D&P, load management. And then I think Derek was a little under the weather. I think that was, did I read that correctly? Did I remember?
Yeah, he just had a little sickness. Said it wasn't anything serious, but they expected him back today. I haven't heard if he's back today, but yeah.
And then Michael Head brings up an interesting element in this.
I was about to say
the Tito Villalba rocket from outside the 18 that I think was trying to burr a hole in the net, through the net, and through the 100 section behind the net when he got that goal. Late, horribly late in a match. And Michael
wasn't his nickname? Am I crazy? Wasn't it like the Lion Destroyer or the Lion Tamer or something like that?
Yeah, I think back in the day, Tito was the Lion Tamer or something along those lines. So yeah, the only thing missing was the stool and the whip, like Gunther Gable Williams, and I just dated myself. I just dated myself with that reference with Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey. So, all right, Tyler, thanks for hanging out as always. Go ahead and hit the promo for me and let me know what's going on at Scarves N Spikes and how folks can access what you guys are doing. Oh, how was Signia? How was the remote at the new hotel? How shiny is it in there?
It is quite shiny. Great drinks, great food, and yeah, it was a fun time. The bar up on the 4th floor, just unrelated to our show, but if you want somewhere else to go just to hang out before a game, that bar is open. It's an open sports bar. You can go and hang out. They have a really cool Halo board right inside that's obviously reminiscent of the one inside the bins.
Okay.
And it's got all the TVs on the inside and outside of it, so you can catch whatever sporting event you happen to be watching. But yeah, it was a great time. We had fun. We had a good turnout, and obviously we just appreciate all the support. That was a lot of fun.
Is this going to be a regular thing where you guys get to go hang out at a sports bar with a ribbon board, or what's the plans with you guys in Signia?
So we have a couple more planned. She Believes Cup would be one.
Understand.
Trying to do something for She Believes Cup, and then one of the Copa America matches. would like to do more for Atlanta, but this was kind of like, let's get our toes in the water and see how things go and see how everybody likes it. And it seemed to go over well. Signia seemed to like it, so maybe we'll try to do some more for Atlanta, but nothing yet. We'll figure that out.
Okay, yeah, but I figure, the She Believes thing, I think folks have heard of that. The Copa America, I think folks have heard of that
Yeah.
too. So might be cool to hang out with you guys there when you have your next round of remotes. All right, so what are the broadcast plans for you and the guys?
So we actually tonight we will be having Taylor Twellman on the show, live show, at 7:00. So, the show kicks off at 7. He'll be on a little after that. And yeah, that's our normal live show on Wednesdays. So check that out on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. Those are the 3 main ones.
Okay.
And then, scarvesandspikes.com. I got an article coming out in like 20 minutes, and we got plenty of stuff coming up about Atlanta. So,
and yes, just please discuss the idea of villainy with the gentleman tonight, if you would, please.
for sure.
And just enjoy your conversation. And once again, as always, thanks for coming on a Wall Pass Wednesday as the blatant cross promotion for everything that you guys do. Because if you've got an article coming out in 13 minutes, I'm hoping it's already proofread, and that all it has to do is just be kicked into the system. Because I didn't want to hold you from sitting there and going, okay, no, Tommy, it's I before E except after C, something like that.
No, all I got to do, I got to get my right picture. That's the only thing I have left to do.
Okay, you mean the correct
featured image, right?
The correct picture, the featured image, not the right picture, not like
not the right picture. See, but this is why I speak and don't write the same way.
Okay, so featured image, not the opposite of left when it comes to imagery. Okay,
correct.
Just check. Tyler, as always, at ATL Pilgrim on the Twitters. Thanks for hanging out with us, my friend. You have an open door whenever you want to crash, but it's great to have you on every single Wednesday before everything hits the FAN when you guys have your night show. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
He's going to continue to drink from his Mandalorian mug, and that's how things go for him on his mornings with his coffee. Tyler Pilgrim, as always, at ATL Pilgrim, Scarves N, the letter N, Spikes, on the Twitters and on all of the platforms where you can catch them there. So article out in 12 minutes. Live show tonight, 7:00, and they're going to talk to one of the MLS commentators tonight at 7:00. So that should be an interesting conversation with them and that particular individual. Like I said, busiest man in the Northeast, Dylan Butler. Hopefully he can join us in 12 minutes, and we'll go over everything else in Major League Soccer. Other stuff that happened yesterday. Actually, Rich, and I wanted to, when we were talking about the CONCACAF Champions Cup, Rich made a point, and I wanted him to bookmark it and remember to bring it back up. Rich was asked by Dell in the Twitch pitch about these kinds of tournaments and the deep dive that we had and the situation financial that is going on in Philadelphia. And Dell posed to the floor, would a coach try to lose to show the need for better players? And that, I mean, if you know you're outgunned, and this is really opening the barn door, this is really opening the hangar door here and making sure that the helicopters that are painted in black come out. But I mean, I think that in a tournament setting, I think what you do along these same lines is that you try and go 100%. And then if something happens that is not the anticipated result, in turn, you sit there and go, well, if we had more resources, then this would happen. Instead of, purposely trying to lose to exit a tournament to make a point. I think the larger picture would be first choice lineup, get it out there. You've got your academy kids that you have a lot of hope in. Try to create something as close to a Liverpool situation as humanly possible. But if you get completely and totally outgunned while you're at 100%, you make your point. We're trying to run it back. It's the same guys for the third year in a row. They're 3 years older than when we first tried to run it back. We've got our academy kids. We did our best. You saw what happened. So I think that that would be the way to approach what's on your mind, as opposed to sitting there and saying, well, you know what, I think we'll just flat out tank and focus on the Major League Soccer season. I don't think that it's, like an FA Cup situation where if you have, as an example, 9 other competitions that you're trying to do and you're in England, it's like, yep, you're going to sacrifice one, so you sacrifice CONCACAF. I don't think that's the case. I think that what you do in this situation is you lay it all out there, you do your best, but then behind closed doors, it's like, okay, I proved our point. We can only go so far here, and we need more resources. We need more investment. We need A, B, C, D, and E to run it back with help. So I don't think that it would be an outright tank. I think what you would do is you go 100% with the resources you have in front of you, and you still lose 6-0. Then my first conversation this morning when I get back into the office in Chester is be like, okay, guys, you saw what happened. I need help.
Yeah.
And that to me would be, I think, Maddie, the situation as you lay it out. You sit there, you knock on your boss's door and go, I need a couple of minutes. Open the door, closed door meeting. Look, you saw what happened. We need help here. We can't continue to have the same guys here continue to get older and try to do the same amount of work. Our academy kids, they're great. We're doing a great job here, but we need those in-betweens. We need those 7 or 8 figure transfer fees to help us out when it comes to either the midfield or trying to put the ball in the back of the net. I think that's what you're staring at here, Maddie, in this situation.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I think to Rich's point, I mean, I don't think Jim Curtin, as much as I'm not a big fan of Philadelphia, and
Yeah.
we know this. It's just not my thing. I think Jim Curtin is a very good coach. I don't think that he would kind of like put his players in a position to fail like that in that way, especially going up against a team like that. I just don't think that would happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, I do think it brings up a good point for him to be like, hey, like we need to do this. Look what happened. It kind of creates like that, like not like the domino effect, but kind of the domino effect where it's like you have this game and then you can go through and be like, did you see what's happening? This is why we need to do this. So I think it definitely brings up a good like point of like, hey, here's what you got to do. You got to help us out.
Yeah, it's like, a little basic cable, little HBO. Help a brother out. Alex, if you lose to make a point, just means your successor may get more resources. True,
exactly.
Traditionally, but as Rich has let us know when we did our deep dive into Philly, yes, they're investing more in infrastructure, but they're not investing more in the talent pool. And so, Philly right now is choosing, at least the ownership is choosing where to place their resources. And it seems to be an infrastructure and physical plant as opposed to actual individuals. And so Dell asking, what if ownership told him that it wasn't a priority due to resources? And Rich says that's what would happen. Once again, before hopefully Dylan can join us at the top of the hour. Morning, Shooter. Morning, Alex. Shooter is on a roll discussing the Revs. Shooter is saying that the Richmond Kickers would kick the Revolution's ass. That's where tying in recent interviews with Maddie and what happened last weekend with our resident New England Revolution fan.
I see what you did. What you did there.
Oh, yeah. See, morning, Rich. Morning, David. Morning, Kefsey. Kefsey saying good Australian evening, by the way. Abby, morning. Good to have you back, Abby. And hope to see many of you at the Twos match on Saturday. We'll be there, too. We will be there as well. We will be there as well with our first broadcast of the season, kicking off MLS Next Pro on soccerdownhere.mixler.com. So Mixler is where we have all of our live events. It's going to be a very, very busy couple of days. And today we will be at Riverwood, Wheeler and Riverwood, for the midweek special here on the SDH network. So I've got to double check and see if it's 6 or 8 or 5:30 and 7:30. I think it's 6 and 8. Don't quote me. After last night, the Battle of Five Forks Trickham, both ends won by Brookwood. And the girls won 3-0. The boys won 3-1. Friday is going to be a special one. We're going to Middle Georgia for the first time. And it is going to be Griffin and Perry. So we'll be in Middle Georgia. So here's the rundown for the rest of the week. Today, Wheeler and Riverwood doubleheader. Wheeler and Riverwood, if I could get my mouth to work. Wheeler and Riverwood, doubleheader. Friday, Perry hosting Griffin, doubleheader. Saturday, the Twos with their season opener, and that's going to be on the network. And then Sunday, everybody's going to be at Mercedes-Benz for Atlanta United and the Purple team. So that's going to be a very, very busy time here in the SDH network. Very, very cool stuff there. Morning, Dell. Let's see. Morning, David. Upside for Atlanta on the weekend. Orlando hung around enough to put in effort that they think they could win. Abby hoping that the OFYO will lose both Saturday with the Twos because it is OCB, and OCB did name their head coach yesterday, I believe, for the season. So it's OCB on Saturday, and it is Orlando City, the parent club, on Sunday at Mercedes-Benz. So it's morning Dell, morning Rich, morning to me, morning to Tommy if he's still hanging out with us. Morning David, morning Emilio, morning Michael. And then the conversations continue about everything. How much are season tickets? Teams currently, okay, so I don't know if season tickets are the union. This is where I'm missing stuff. I don't know if it's a union season ticket question or a Twos season ticket question. Rich mentioning that the union are currently in building a practice facility and a mixed-use structure around the stadium. Hopefully it's not on the one side that's closest to the river. Meetings popping up. Abby, go Wheeler. So, Abby, thanks for dropping by this morning. So, union tickets. That's a good question, Del. So that, yeah. So, Rich would know that one better than I when it comes to the price of season tickets, Atlanta versus Philadelphia. I would imagine, though, that Atlanta's are more, but concessions in certain elements at Mercedes-Benz Stadium are less. So it kind of all over the place. And Rich said that Union is the second most expensive season ticket in Major League Soccer. Very, very interesting. Philosophy is to do more with less. Rumor conspiracy theory with Philadelphia is if they change course and spend, that would be considered a failure. The meeting popped up during the Wheeler game. Staying here for the show. All right, so Abby, thank you. And I know that we've got to, Abby, separately, I know that we've got to catch up about the Marshall Islands project, and I've got to get you card stock with maybe Maddie's picture about how folks can contribute and help out and pick up scarves and things like that. So I know we've got to combine on that. Let's see. Before we get into hour number 2, since we're mentioning it, there you go. There's the scarf for the Marshall Islands. 32. And it turned Maddie into an international modeling superstar. So if you go to the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation website, you get to see Maddie modeling it. Our friend Liz is the one responsible for the photographs. So it's 32 for the summer scarf. And if you want to see Abby deliver it to you, there's a form on the Discord that you can fill out. And you can, sit there and say, okay, here, I'm going to pay for it, and I want Abby to deliver it in the Abstermobile. If you don't want it, or if you're outside the footprint, then it's probably another $5. I can go to the post office and mail it to you. So you contact the show, contact me directly. We can get you the scarves. 32 if you want Abby to deliver it to you. 32 plus probably 5 if you want it delivered through the mail. So you're helping out the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation build the program from scratch. Yesterday, our friend, technical director Lloyd Hours, had a live Q&A on their Instagram account as to how things are progressing. So very, very cool stuff from our friends at the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation as they build things from scratch. The last country on this planet to build a national soccer program. They're starting it with futsal. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. Very, very cool stuff from them as we all go forward here on a Wall Pass Wednesday. One thing I wanted to get into also, I thought about opening kickoff and doing this for opening kickoff, but I held back until now. So I guess this is like kicking off hour number 2. It's the opening kickoff for the second half. Don't know if you saw it yesterday, but Arsenal survived and advanced in Champions League. And they headline, and they went to PKs to do it. Headline in the Telegraph: Mikel Arteta accused of insulting Porto manager Sergio Conceição's family in Spanish.
Oh, my goodness.
Sam Dean at the Emirates, and there's a photo, and it's a great photo. Basically, Arteta's arm is wrapped around Conceição, and Conceição is staring daggers into Mikel Arteta, and he has his right index finger right in Mikel Arteta's face. So CONCACAF alleges the following. Arteta was accused of insulting CONCACAF's family during the match at the Emirates. Arsenal reached the Champions League quarters for the first time in 14 years with a win in the shootout. CONCACAF appeared to clash with Arteta at the end of the match, seen jabbing his finger in Arteta's face. In his press conference a few minutes later, he claimed Arteta had insulted him in Spanish during the match. Arteta had earlier declined to comment about the argument, instead choosing to talk about the positives. But it's understood he strongly denied the accusation after being informed of CONCACAF's claim. CONCACAF said the result was unjust. The team deserved to go through, meaning his Porto. What Arteta said towards the bench in Spanish, he insulted my family. He should focus on training his team, end quote. CONCACAF has a history of clashing with Premier League managers. Back in 2020, after a match against Manchester City, he accused Pep Guardiola of, quote, speaking about our country using ugly words, end quote, and added Guardiola's attitude was extremely unpleasant. CONCACAF has made a similar complaint against Thomas Tuchel following Porto's quarterfinal defeat by Chelsea in April of 2021. Quote, I was insulted by this gentleman who is next door, meaning Tuchel at the time. I didn't quite understand. I heard some insults, but it's over. It's not pretty, and my irritation in the end had to do with it. I didn't even address it. David Raya came up big with saves in the penalty phase. So basically, the man got fired up again. And so for the third time in modern history, third time in the last 4 years, CONCACAF has basically said that the Premier League manager on the other side of the touchline has insulted either him or his family or his club.
Yeah, that's
There's a level of consistency there.
Yeah, I feel like, one time, heat of the moment. But I feel like even heat of the moment, you don't say that. You don't threaten someone's family. And then also the multiple times that it's happened.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't even know anymore.
It's like, okay, if that's in fact the case, then okay.
Yeah.
But the fact that it has apparently now happened 3 times facing Premier League folks, then very, very interesting that it has gone down the way that it has, possibly, probably, allegedly.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to find more information. Gary Jacob at the Times. Arsenal wins 4-2 in the penalty shootout. Second leg finished 1-0 after extra time. We get the coming together of CONCACAF and with the Arteta. So the quote from CONCACAF, it's added to in the Times. Then at the end, I said, pay attention. Who he insults is not between us. He should focus on training his team because they have a lot of individual qualities to do that. Here's the additional part. It must be a Spanish coach thing because it was the same thing with Guardiola. I think it might be a Premier League thing because if it was Tuchel as well, that's 3 times. Tuchel is not Spanish, last time I checked. The result was unjust. My team deserved to go through. Arteta, when he was asked about the coming together, he goes, no comment. Thanks very much. That's very Southern. That is a very Southern way to go about it.
Yeah, very much so.
That is a very Southern way of going about it.
Basically, he just said, yeah, I'm good.
Bless your heart.
Bless your heart.
It's one of those. It's like, bless your heart. Yes.
He really did. He hit them with the bless your heart, and that was it.
Yeah. Dell saw the Porto coach giving Arteta the business. Yes, it was the index finger right in the grill. That's what was going on. Okay, so Abby is saying Riverwood and Wheeler tonight's 8, according to Riverwood's website. So assume the girls are 6. So 6 and 8 is what we're going with tonight when it comes to the activity at Riverwood. So Riverside Drive in 285. Come by, say hi with the 3 of us in the press box. So girls at 6, boys at 8, soccerdownhere.mixler.com. Abby doing the work of the programmer. Kefsey, yes. I believe Arteta said words in Spanish. Yes. Allegedly, possibly, probably, but we don't know what those words were, allegedly. So, intrigue. Palace intrigue, I say, when it comes to Arteta and Guardiola. Yes, Spanish. Thomas Tuchel, not Spanish. So 2 of the last 3 times that Porto has faced a Premier League side, and 3 times in 4 years, apparently there have been words. There have been words, I say. And so Conceição not happy for the third time going up against a Premier League side, and Arsenal advances. So we've got other action in the Premier League today, and we'll go over said juice boxes when it comes to what we can stare at when it comes to the Champions League. And remember that Europa League and Europa Conference League, that is a very, very busy thing tomorrow. And there's a lot of like 145s and things like that. Champions League today, Atletico Madrid and Inter favored on the road at a plus 141. Your draws a plus. This is just to win the match, not to advance. Win the match, Inter a plus 141. Your draws a plus 244. Atletico Madrid, who probably will turn this into what we refer to in horse racing as a mucker. Basically, muddy track, slow horses, the whole thing. Do not be surprised if that is how Diego Simeone responds, and it ends up being very, very low scoring, very, very defensive. Atletico Madrid surrendering possession maybe 25, 30% of the time, and it might be like 1-0 and trying to get out of there alive. The other one's 4 o'clock, Dortmund and PSV. Dortmund at home is a plus 121, draws a plus 288. Remember, this is just to win the match, not to advance. And PSV is a plus 204. So that's what you're staring at when it comes to all of those kinds of things. Dylan Butler, as we say, he's the busiest man in show business. He's attending to other things, and so Dylan will be trying to join us next week around 10 o'clock. So we got stuff to talk about. So it's whatever's on your mind here in hour number 2, and it is across the board. So it's me and Maddie and all of y'all. So whatever's on your mind, Wall Pass Wednesday. It doesn't even have to be soccer. That's the beauty of Wall Pass Wednesday. You got a question about anything? That's what it's all about. Whatever's on your mind, bring it to the table. That's what we're here for. Dell discussing what's going on with season tickets. Charleston Battery supporters section, $250. And yes, David, his mother was a mother. His mother was a mother. Exactly. With the horse racing part of the whole thing. So Atleti probably going to muck it up today. And if that's the one that's on your CBS, then it might not necessarily be the best one to watch. So just saying. So just putting that out there. Atleti might be, it might be something that you have on in the background and not necessarily paying a whole lot of attention to. But since we're there, what to watch and where to watch it. Copa Libertadores is on at 8:30 with Colo Colo and Sportivo Trinidense. If you don't have BN and you want to watch Libertadores, you want to watch the Brasileiro, you want to watch a lot of stuff, you want to watch what's going on with AFCON, Ligue 1, over with BN, you can get BN if you don't have BN. You can get it at Fanati's, fntz.co/soccer down here. Helps out the show, helps out the network, helps them out as well, and it helps you out with all of your desires, but with all of your sicko quotient when it comes to obscure places to watch the match from around the planet. You get CDO for the fans, TIC, Nuestra Tele, Goal TV, BN, and that's just the beginning. You can get that at Fanati's. And tonight you could be watching the Copa Libertadores at 8:30. FS2, very, very busy day. PSG and Nice at a little after 4 o'clock in the Coupe de France. The CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza, once again, 6, 8, and 10:30. We'll go over the odds coming up in just a sec. Robin Hood and Herediano, the winner gets Pachuca. And what that means is that Pachuca might have their ticket punched to the Final Four. Because Herediano favored, they've already got a large advantage. Going to Suriname, minus 244 to win. This is just to win, not to advance. Plus 383 on the draw option because Herediano, as long as they don't surrender like 5 goals, they're in good shape. Robin Hood is a plus 541 to win. The one that everyone's paying attention to is the 815. Enter Miami, Messi and friends hosting Nashville SC. They are at a -200 to win. Draws a +355, and Nashville is a +455.
They might kill each other.
Well, I think if Gary Smith has his way, we got to stop at Messi, make sure he doesn't score.
Yeah. I also just feel like after what happened the first game is going to be something. I'm excited to watch it. It's going to be fun.
Yes.
I also think it helps out well, especially when it is. I think going into the MLS weekend, I guarantee you anyone, DC United and Charlotte are like, yes, get the tired legs. I think they're very excited for this.
Yes.
I would be too. I mean, I think because it's in Miami. I think it's already going to be a crazy match, all because of what happened the last time they played each other. I think it's going to be an absolute dogfight. I think they're going to. They might hurt each other. There might be some words.
Yes.
But I mean, I think it's going to be a good match overall. It's kind of the aggregate's 2-2. I mean, it's going to be a fun one. Nashville's going to be trying to get that away goal. That's going to be huge for them. Miami has 2. Nashville allowed them to get 2. It's going to be interesting to see what happens tonight, especially because, Miami has no defense. I'm interested to see how that happens.
Yeah, Dell basically is rooting for Dell has, with his Charleston Battery eyeglasses on, he has a rooting interest in any and all Charleston Battery players that have been in and around. And so a Ta Brian Anunga reference for Nashville SC brings Dell to the table with his Charleston Battery. So by default, because of his love and appreciation for Ta Brian Anunga, who is not afraid to stick himself into any tackle or situation that would require perhaps some bowing up of the shoulders and staring at other individuals, Dell is not afraid to sit there and wave his Ta Brian Anunga flag and hope that Ta Brian Anunga does things to the offense of Messi and friends, which, he has been known to do. Ta Brian Anunga has never been one to back down from any kind of a challenge, either physical or football-based. And so do not be surprised if that happens at all. So going back and looking at that 2-2 match with Messi and friends and Nashville, it legitimately was one of those instances where you're going, I feel like Christopher Walken all of a sudden, you have the chances were there. I mean, it's literally for Nashville, the chances were there. You cannot give an opening for Messi and friends. You can't. You cannot do this.
And I think that was the issue. The entire time, Nashville was playing at home. They had the advantage, and they could not solidify in that back line, and they allowed Messi and friends to come in there and, get 2 goals on them. And that's going to be good. Now, I think Nashville's going to go into this game, a little bit, they're hungry for it, which makes sense, absolutely. But, they're away. It's going to be a lot harder. And you have to think that maybe Miami knows that, and they might try to bunker down a little bit more. But again, who do they have to bunker down? Messi's not going to go defend.
Well, I mean, at the moment he's not. Here's how it all laid out in the first match. Nashville got 2 goals. It was 1-0 at the break. Jacob Schaffelberg scored in the 4th minute. And frankly, I don't know how well, I do, but once again, that's opening the helicopter hangar and letting the darkly tinted helicopters come out. I don't know how I don't know how Messi and friends actually survived the first 45 minutes with 11 men. I really don't.
I don't either.
And there were instances where legitimately it could have been at least a man down, if not 2. And there were, I think one was Redondo. Redondo basically laying into Schaffelberg, and it was a pretty nasty challenge. And then there was one that happened right at the beginning of stoppage time in the first 45 minutes. And you have to look for it very, very carefully. There was one angle where literally the AR is holding up the light board, and you see another hip check that literally, I think it was Schaffelberg again. Schaffelberg scored, and then he got targeted. And so he gets hip checked, and I don't know, like I said, I don't know how Messi and friends finished with 11 in the first 45 minutes. They did, but then Jacob Schaffelberg exerts the best revenge that you could ever have, scoring in the 47th minute to make it 2-0. But once again, this goes to the issue of angering Superman. As the old Jim Croce song says, you don't spit on Superman's cape, you don't spit in the wind, you don't pull the mask off of the Lone Ranger, and you don't mess around with Slim. And in this case, Slim would be Lionel Messi, because the last thing you want to do is get him angry. And once again, I don't know how the Lucas McNaughton challenge on Lionel Messi didn't end up with at least a card. That didn't end up with a card. No card. Not even a card. I know that Messi ended up laughing it off or just staring at the AR and going, bruh. And Messi scores in the 52nd. And then Luis Suarez scores at 90+5. And I don't know if that speaks to defense or if that speaks to what Messi and friends do when they're mad. It's like the Incredible Hulk and David Banner, the old thing from the TV series. Don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. That happened in the second 45, and you end up at 2-2. So that's where we are after the first leg of this particular two for Maddie. And I don't know. I really don't.
I don't know either. I think it's definitely going to be a match. I don't know what could happen. Anything can happen. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I think we might see a little bit more of a I don't want to say bloodbath, but I think we might see it just a wee bit of a bloodbath, just a wee bit. I think there's going to be there's definitely going to be some animosity, I think, going into it. I wouldn't be shocked if there was a lot of fouls or not red cards. Maybe a red card or two, possibly. Depends on how crazy it starts.
Yeah.
But I could see a lot of yellows. I could see a lot of fouls. I think we're going to see a pretty gritty match tonight. I think so.
Yeah. And so you're staring at this one once again. Juice Box is here. Once again, Nashville, heavy underdog on the road. Messi and friends at a -200 to win, which would mean they would advance. Draws a +355, and your Nashville winning percentage, right, or your winning numbers around a +455. Starting lineups in this one last time for Nashville: Willis, Shaq Moore, Lucas McNaughton, Walker Zimmerman. Zimmerman is dinged up. Obviously, he's going to want to play. We don't know how effective he will be. Had things worked out and Nashville not been in the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza, they were hoping Walker would have been at Brookwood last night because they put him in the Brookwood Hall of Fame. And Sean Johnson had continually given Walker Zimmerman grief in the past about, hey, I'm in the Hall of Fame and you're not. So last night, in between matches on the network, Walker's mom and dad were there to accept the nomination and the jersey presentation. But, yeah, Walker Zimmerman is now in the Brookwood Broncos Hall of Fame. Dinged up, probably going to play. He wore the captain's armband in the first leg. Lovitz, Godoy, and Anibal Godoy. Frankly, Anibal Godoy ain't backing down from a challenge from nobody. And Godoy was more than happy to stick his nose in the pile and wolf at Messi. And I thought that Anibal Godoy was going to be made an example of in leg number one because he was woofing at Messi. Didn't quite happen yet. Sean Davis, Alex Mouil, Hani Mukhtar, Jacob Schaffelberg, Tyler Boyd. And that was the starting lineup in the first leg. Substitutions: Mackenzie Gaines, Teal Bunbury, Drew Yearwood, Taylor Washington, Jack Mayer. Starting lineup for Messi and friends in leg one. We'll get into the starting lineup on the rotated side in a bit. Calendar, Gressel, Aviles, Krivtsov, Nicola Ferreira, Noah Allen, Redondo, Busquets. Redondo did pick up a yellow, but not for what we thought he was going to pick up a yellow for. Busquets, Gomez, Messi, and Suarez. Substitutions, David Ruiz and Lawson Sunderland, and those came, one because of the yellow to Redondo and the other because of situational. So that was your starting lineups in leg one. Then going back to what happened on the weekend, where everybody was sitting there looking at Messi and friends in Montreal, going, Montreal, they're on the road, blah, 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 but they don't understand what Laurent Courtois brings to the table. And Laurent Courtois is a difficult coach to go up against. I mean, Columbus Crew 2 won MLS Next Pro. Courtois is a handful, multiple hands full. Montreal won at 3-2 at a plus 301. Miami was favored. Messi and friends were favored at a minus 114. Draw was a plus 268. But Montreal won at a plus 301 in a game that was absolutely crazy nuts bonkers to wrap up the week. Starting lineups on the switch. So you can compare and contrast all of the evidence that we're piecing together here from leg one to the weekend and to now. So it'd be nice if I could get lineups. You sit there and you click on a button and you're hoping to get lineups. I might have to do this through a SofaScore. But yeah, Montreal, Maddie, they got the win on the weekend, and it was, a lot of folks were thinking, yeah, because Miami's at home, Miami's going to take care of business. But Montreal, they kind of shocked the planet and got a goal in the 13th. They had a 1-0 lead, and then the final 20 minutes were stupid. Campana scores to tie it. Kokoro and Sanusi score within 2 minutes of each other to go up 3-1. Montreal was up 3-1. Jordi Alba scored with 10 minutes to go, and then the last 10-plus minutes was just absolute insanity. Your lineups, once again, for Messi and friends on the weekend. Aviles, Krivtsov, Noah Allen. Ruiz, Gressel, Redondo, Sunderland, Jordi Alba, Campana, Robert Taylor. You had no Messi. Messi was sitting. Luis Suarez came in the 76th. Freda, Busquets, Gomez, Suarez, Borgelin all come in and give you minutes. Schneider Borgelin had a chance to tie it later than late, and he skied it over the bar. But no Messi. You were saving Messi for tonight. But you still have a lot of folks that got a lot of minutes at the back. Aviles, Krivtsov, and Freda were there. So, Aviles and Krivtsov started, put in a lot of minutes on the weekend. And Krivtsov gave you 90. Aviles gave you 66. Noah Allen got the start. And Noah Allen gave you 90. Plus the minutes that he gave on the weekend. So you've got a lot of folks for Messi and friends. Noah Allen gave you 90. What have we said about the young kids this year? A lot of folks, Maddie, giving a lot of minutes for Messi
Absolutely.
and friends rolling into.
Absolutely. And I mean, looking at the Miami-Montreal matchup, Alvarez scored in the 13th minute. No one scored in the rest of the half.
Mm-hmm.
Campana came in, then he scored. Then literally Montreal scored maybe 4 minutes after that. And then they scored their third goal only 3 minutes after.
Yeah.
Alba was only able to get one in at the 80th minute, but they weren't able to close it out. They were not able to get anything there. I mean, you look at Miami, they have so much star power, but again, we talked about it the entire time. You can score as many goals as you want, but if you can't close out games, what are you going to do?
What? You're talking about defense again.
I am talking about defense again because the defense isn't there, John. It's not there. It is literally non-existent. Who is defending?
No,
Nobody.
Allegedly it's Aviles, Krivtsov, and Noah Allen. Hey, youngin, go run.
Oh, goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, gosh.
Youngin, go run.
It's rough.
Rich, much like our Incredible Hulk reference, Rich is hanging in there. He goes, Miami only wins when Messi plays and when he's angry. You wouldn't like him when he's angry. Absolutely true. I mean, seriously, after Anibal Godoy gets in Messi's face, and literally you have all this tall timber in there, and it's like 5 or 6 dudes, and they're in this one pile, and Suarez has had it, and Messi has had it, and they're all in this. It's like Messi wants a piece of somebody. Anibal Godoy steps up, and it's like, all right, I'm ready to go. That literally, Anibal Godoy is going nose to nose with anybody that is in a pink heron jersey. Absolutely in a pink heron jersey. Anibal Godoy has no issues to give.
He said, I'm going to square up.
Yeah, he's like, I don't care. I don't care who you are. And almost short of finger pointing and chest puffing out, that Anibal Godoy, he's just standing there. He's like, yeah, bruh, don't care. Ready to go. You want to drop? We'll go.
Which, I mean, like, I think one thing that I will say I have been loving, especially because I was a bit nervous, like Messi's coming in. I was nervous that these players wouldn't step up to the challenge, or like they would almost be too scared.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not that at all. We are seeing these players. We're seeing like 20-year-olds step up to Messi and just go at it. And I love it because that's what you have to do. Like it's not like Messi is the GOAT. Let's just make that very clear right now. He is the GOAT. But I mean, like, it's great to see. I like seeing I like players, kind of not afraid to step up and, face off. I think that's what you have to do sometimes, especially in a game. Now, getting in Messi's face like that, that's a little, that's just, I'm talking more just in soccer in general. Like, They're not afraid to step up. They're not afraid to kind of just, like, get in there and, stop Messi from taking those chances. Because at the end of the day, it's still a game. And I like it. I think it's fun. I like it a lot. I like the competition that it's bringing. Let me say that. That's probably a better way to phrase what I'm trying to say. I like the competition that we're seeing in MLS and even in these other competitions. I really like it. I think it's fun.
And so you like the idea, you like the notion of folks not backing down, because there's either going to be some kid, and I say that because I'm not one, someone between the ages of 18 and 25, or a veteran in Major League Soccer who might be in his early 30s, who sees the chance of lighting Messi up to take it over into American football parlance. It's like Messi's coming across the middle. Okay, fine. I don't care. I'll light him up. And you're not having folks in Major League Soccer. Folks in Major League Soccer are looking at this as an opportunity and not looking at the after effects. They're not sitting there and they're not trying to look at getting Messi mad. They're trying to take care of business first. And if they get Messi mad, then they'll go and figure that out after the fact.
Yeah. Which, I mean, like, I feel like, that's a part of the game. We always see players get a little upset, like it's a heat of the moment. It's a very, stakes are high. Adrenaline's running. You're running for 90 plus minutes. But I mean, I think it's cool. You have these younger players who are stepping up and playing with Messi. Mm-hmm. How many times can you say that?
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's fun. I love what it brings. It's so fun. I have been enjoying it as much as I, come on here and I talk crap about, how Messi and friends don't have a defense. I still think it's a lot of fun. I love it. I think it brings a good competition to it. Like, if you would have told me in a million years I'm going to be sitting in front of my TV tonight after we do these high school games, watching Inter Miami play Nashville, I would say you're out of your mind. But I am watching because it's fun.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So it's pretty cool.
Absolutely true. I know that Rich has linked to an article, as has a Rich from our friends at Crossing Broad, discussing the larger issues with Philly. We'll get into that before we go, because I think, like I said, when we got into the deep dive in the preseason about Philadelphia, it was something that kind of evolved organically here on the show. And that's what we do. If there's something that is a journalistic topic, and it just so happens that we go down a rabbit hole, then that's what we do. We got the space to do it. And to be able to have these kinds of discussions, I think, is important. So the Crossing Broad article is out discussing the loss. And I think that there's a key section in here. It's been put in the Twitch pitch in addition to the article in and of itself. So we'll circle back when we get through all of the other news of the day, and we'll circle back and discuss what's going on with Philly from a larger picture. And we'll do it from a journalistic perspective, not the fan, yeah, we know that there are those who are going to be getting the digs in and all that kind of stuff. But from the journalistic idea of what Crossing Broad puts together and the philosophical arguments that they put together when it comes to Philadelphia. So put a bookmark in the Crossing Broad piece, and we'll come back to it. Abby got an email from our friends at Rhode Island FC. Inaugural season, New Mexico United. Burns Stadium on the campus of Bryant University sold out.
Oh, that's awesome. That's cool.
So our friends at Rhode Island FC and our resident mogul in training, Michael Parkhurst, you've got a sold-out house. And for those of you that missed the conversation that we had with Cap about what it's going to be like and all of the things that you didn't quite know or understand, or, it's like you never thought about until you had an opening. You had an opening night. This is what you're getting at Bryant, with the home of the Bryant Bulldogs, Burns Stadium, sold out against New Mexico United. Obviously, on Friday, we'll discuss it a little more when we get into juice boxes and things like that. And this week is also the beginning of our USL Championship and League One review preview shows. We'll go through all the juice boxes in those and get you through the highlights of the matches of the week and get you ready for what's going on in both of those leagues. It is a season opener for a couple of the franchises in USL League One. And Maddie, before we go any further, why don't you tease the interview that you had with Darren Sawatsky and the Richmond Kickers, who, by the way, are going back to their dress red jerseys, plus they're bringing in a lightning bolt. So interesting stuff going on in Richmond. What'd you find out?
Yeah, I mean, and talking to Darren, I mean, he, obviously they came in from 2022 winning the Shield, like winning the league, and it was great. And then you come into this last season and they were 11th. It's hard, and we talked a lot about that rebuilding structure and how difficult it is to rebuild and how hard it is as a club to kind of come up and really develop that and kind of get back to where you want to be. But one thing that I also found interesting is, we talked a lot too about balancing of regular season matches as well as Open Cup. Because, they have their first match this Saturday, and then only a couple days later, they have their first Open Cup match.
Yeah.
Talked a lot about just balancing that as a coach, but we also talked a lot about the importance of the Open Cup and just how great it was, especially for him, not only as a coach, but as a player in the cup. We talked a lot about just how awesome it is that, these clubs are getting the chance to do it, and they still do. And we talked a lot about, how the underdog, it's fun to watch the underdog kind of come in and beat an MLS team once in a while. It's fun. So it was a good conversation. If you want to listen to everything else we talked about, it's on our Twitter. You should go listen to it. It was a lot of fun. But but it was a really, really good interview. I love talking to him, and I'm looking forward to see what they do this season.
And Maddie's been taking the tour of the championship in League One. So, all right. So who have you caught up with so far? What's the list been?
We got Lexington.
Okay.
Oh no, not Lexington. Lexington actually is going to be this week though. Catching up with them.
Got
it. This Thursday.
Okay.
It'll be Darren Powell. I will be talking to him. I have talked to Richmond, and I have talked to one Knoxville.
Good interview with Marky McKeever, by the way. And we're still trying to figure out how we can get Sunsphere kits shipped here to the SDH headquarters.
I'm trying. I'm trying. Listen. Listen. I'm still waiting on my Birmingham Legion one. So if I can add another one to the list, John.
Yeah, so we'll add the Sunsphere kit to the list, and go to One Knox's website. And you can see what they're doing with the Sunsphere kit, or follow them on all the media that is social, and you can track down what they're doing this year with the Sunsphere kit. Very, very cool. I remember my parents spending an incredible amount of money during the World's Fair in Knoxville to go up the Sunsphere and basically have like a shot glass filled with Coke, and it was like $8.
Wow.
It was literally Knoxville hosted the World's Fair, and it was some of the most, and much like, most World's Fairs and things like that, you knew you were going to be spending a boatload of money, and they built the Sunsphere as kind of like the main downtown attraction, kind of trying to make it look like how things were in downtown Dallas at the time. And so they built the Sun Sphere, and it was built for the 1982 World's Fair. The 1982 World's Fair. So it is a 40-year project. It is a 42-year-old building. Fourth floor observation deck gives you the 360-degree view, stretching from downtown to the Great Smoky Mountains, including World's Fair Park, the Tennessee River, and the University of Tennessee campus. A 1982 World's Fair timeline, gallery, memorabilia, and gift shop await you. And now it's only $5 to go up. So it's a lot less expensive than it was when the place was open for the World's Fair in 82. I'll tell you that right now.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
So, yes, the Sun Sphere. So, once again, go to One Knox and look at their kit. They did some really cool stuff with the Sun Sphere here in this go-round. All right. So, folks were letting me know about getting messy mad, and I quoted Jim Croce. And Emilio doing the work, chasing after the lyrics. When I said slim, I was half right. It wasn't the first verse, though. First chorus was "You don't mess around with Jim." Verse 2 is slim. Second chorus is Jim, and the third and the fourth chorus are slim. So I was half right. You don't mess around with Jim. You don't mess around with Slim. I said Slim. I was half right. I just wasn't right initially. It was not the first reference in the song. So standards and practices, once again, coming through with everything. Let's see. The article that Tyler was talking about, we got about a half hour here in the show this morning. Final half hour is about anything, once again, that's on the table, and we're going to revisit the article from Crossing Broad after our deep dive into Philadelphia this morning, and we're going to go a little deeper to go back and talk about what we were discussing when we talked about Philadelphia before and revisit that. The article did make it a little late than 10 o'clock, so I guess blame me. Scarves and Spikes, just glad Franco Ibarra won't be the one who breaks Messi's ankle in Major League Soccer, makes Atlanta the most hated team on the planet. Nightmares were about that last year. Emilio is not enjoying the Messi experience.
Oh,
I mean, well, and I think that it gets to the larger picture because, and you know, Emilio, correct me if I'm off base, but I think that the Messi experience here, literally more than anything, has to do with Messi and friends, because with Messi comes in. Then it's Jordi Alba. Then it's Sergi Busquets. Then it's Luis Suarez. And it turns into this thing where the natural skepticism that we had involving the salary structure of Major League Soccer, like we had with LAFC bringing in Gareth Bale and bringing in Chiellini and all that, and trying to fit it with Carlos Vela, you have that natural skepticism of, oh, here goes Messi and friends again. They had 5 DPs. They were punished by the league. Now that they're out of the punishment and they've sent Phil Neville on his way, now they brought in Tata Martino, and it's now the Gulfstream Galacticos. And how do all these folks fit in under the salary cap? And I think that that's part of it. It's the natural skepticism that you sit there and you go, well, okay, they obviously have to be breaking the rules again because of, it's like, okay, all these DPs, how can they fit all these guys under the cap, and how can they all be DPs because of who they are? I mean, maybe they ain't hurting for money, and maybe they don't care, and maybe it's an NIL deal like it is with Messi. It's just not as highly publicized. But to bring in a player like Messi, that means he's going to want to bring in his friends, and he's going to want to have Tata Martino as his coach. He's not going to want to have Phil Neville as his coach. It's going to be the Messi show. And David Beckham is going to sit there and not go, well, God, I can't do a Beckham. See, Nick would have to do the Beckham, but David Beckham is not going to sit there and say no. The Moss brothers aren't going to sit there and say no. Chris Henderson is going to have to be the one to sit there and say, okay, well, we have this, and this to navigate, as evidenced by what we saw with the DeAndre Yedlin deal to get under the cap. You're getting rid of Gregory, you get rid of Mota, and you get rid of Quarantine Jean. You trade Yedlin to bring in Redondo for the weirdest figure of AM ever in the history of ever. was like 172, 799 in GAM. So either Chris Henderson is just making up numbers. Yeah, let's just make it a random number so folks can sit there and look at the randomness of it all. Or that is truly what you needed to do to get rid of a veteran, bring in a young player, pay the young player what you need to pay, considering what you paid to bring him in the first place. And so I think that you're looking at all of these elements here that are attached, and and Emilio does say further down the timeline that he's that I'm on the right path. Oh my God, mark the time down. But I think all of these different aspects of it, where Messi and friends, it is the perceived favoritism of all of the rules and alleged, whatever you want to allege. It's like, how do we fit all these players in? That, I think, Maddie, is what we're getting at here. While it's great to have him here, you can't. There are folks that are going to be not taking all of these efforts seriously to have all of these Galacticos under one roof and not have it be a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, how'd you do to fit it all under the cap.
No, and I completely agree with you. I think we're, at least from my perspective, I love at least the competition of it in the essence of just the game. If I'm looking at, I'm going to watch this game, I like that, what the energy it's bringing.
Mm-hmm.
I like that energy. I don't like how we're constantly having to sit here and be like, are they salary compliant? Why is the league focusing only on Messi? Why are they not focusing on any of the other teams? To me, and I completely agree with you on all those points too. I think that especially with what MLS is doing now, it feels like Messi and Inter Miami can't do anything wrong, when no one has mentioned anything about the fact that they are not bringing anybody in solid on the defense. That is literally like, they're only talking about Busquets. They're only talking about Suarez. They're only talking about Messi. They're not talking about anything that is going wrong. And there has been a couple points that things have gone wrong. Hint the Montreal match where they lost 3-2 at home. I'm sorry. I think I completely agree with you. I think the level of competition is what I like with Messi being here. I like seeing these teams kind of come up and play against these players, mm-hmm. and really not stand their ground and really prove themselves. But I don't like how it's kind of overshadowing everything else in the league, because there are some really good teams in this league. There's some phenomenal players in this league. And to me, it feels like every other team there's always something that someone's going to harp on. But with Messi, it's always, oh, well, they're Miami. They're good. They're going to make it to the Sports Shield. They're going to make it to the playoffs, that's just right now couldn't happen.
Well, but I mean, you've still got plenty of time.
Absolutely.
And look, where Messi and friends are concerned, I don't think they're going to win the East. I don't, because of all of the other external factors that are attached to this. I don't foresee them, because of age, because of schedule compression, because of multiple competitions, because of international duty, because of all of these things. You're going to have rotation, like we saw on the weekend when you had the rotation for the Montreal match, even if it was at home. And all of these factors, to me, and like I said, from the absolute beginning, I have maintained that Messi and friends were going to try to sprint to a total and hang on. Try to get as many points out of the blocks and hang on. And so we'll see if that's in fact the case, because of everything else and bodies breaking down and all these kinds of things, and trying to figure out, okay, where do Messi and friends fit into this? For me, I'm staring at it from the perspective of, you got dudes that are 35, 6, and 7. That's your offense. It's an amazing offense. It's fun to watch. Don't get me wrong. But it's a 36-match schedule. It is Leagues Cup. It is all of these other things that you're tied to. It is postseason. So in a perfect world, I mean, if you advance deep into Leagues Cup, you're looking at what? I mean, and if you make a deep run in the playoffs, you make a deep run in Leagues Cup, deep run in the playoffs in the postseason, plus what's going on with the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza, you're talking 50 matches. Not that Luis Suarez didn't play close. I think he played 43 last year on those legs. But because of the nature of travel, because of the nature of all of these things, because of all the different competitions, you're going to need a roster, you're going to need a deep roster, and you're going to need to sit your stars. That's why I don't think Messi and friends finish top in the East. I think that obviously they're going to be trouble, but they're top 4 for me.
I mean, I would say a little bit less. I think they might be top 5, 6, or 7, especially with the way that they have been playing. I just don't. I'm like, they come in strong for some games. You know, they'll win 5-0 against Orlando, but then they'll lose 3-2 against freaking Montreal.
But it was rotated, so I understand. Yeah,
it was rotated, but you're also at home.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm kind of like, okay, like, come on, you're rotated, but again, it's that reliance on Messi. It's relying on Messi. You have these fans who are like, oh, we lost because we didn't have Messi. Yeah, of course you did, because there's no one else. Who do you have? No one. And I think that's also why you're going to have issues, especially when players get call-ups. We have international call-ups still.
Mm-hmm.
Messi's going to get called up to Argentina. That's going to happen. I mean, like, what are you going to do then? Who are you going to bring up? What's going to happen then? And yeah, Rich, I mean, listen, I don't know. How are they gonna get casual fans? Listen, I don't know either. I personally think they should watch for Giakoumakis in total, because that man is crazy with how good he is. Holy crap. I literally was like, I was at the beach and I was like hanging out, and I get a text from my stepdad, and he was like, man, Giakoumakis is looking good after the first goal. And then the text kept coming through. It was just, oh my gosh, Giakoumakis did it again. Mm-hmm. Holy crap, Giakoumakis hat trick. Mm-hmm. And I was like, whoa, what is going on? Mm-hmm. So then I rewatched the game a little bit later on in the morning, and I was like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
It was crazy. But yeah, I don't know. I honestly think that they could finish maybe, especially with all the other competition in the East, maybe 5, 6, or 7. I don't see them finishing top 4.
What I would do, obviously, Rich goes, but Maddie, how do we get the casual fans into MLS without Miami Galacticos? I mean, the Gulfstream Galacticos is definitely one way to do it.
Listen, I agree.
But I think also what it does is it's incumbent upon the local team to sit there and invest and sit there and say, here's why you should come and be a part of our excitement outside of what's going on with Inter Miami. And you're seeing that in Atlanta. I mean, you had 67-7-27 show up for a match, your first home match of the season up against New England. So I think that what Atlanta is doing is something that has, been organic since day one, putting it into a college football environment and taking that college football mindset and the pub diplomacy that Darren Eales had and applying it forward and seeing where things are. So I think it's incumbent upon each of the clubs, outside of the possible visit by the Herons every time, to sit there and try to make it work in your community. And, oh, by the way, hey, look, Inter Messi's coming to town, and get your tickets if they were to exist. Those kinds.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a reason why Atlanta held the record, especially when we first joined the league.
Mm-hmm.
The record for the most attendance, the record for all of these different things. There's a reason for it, and it's because of how well they built up that community here in Atlanta. Now, also, too, credit to them for building it, but it was already here. That culture, everything like that was already here. That soccer fan base, they just needed something like this to kind of bring it up. And I mean, and I think many other teams did that too. LAFC is one of them. LAFC brought up a really good culture. Seattle Sounders had a great culture as well before we came into the league. Even now, they still do.
Mm-hmm.
You have these teams who have the blueprint for it, where they built it from the ground up, and they have that culture and that community. And I think Inter Miami wants to do that, but I think they're doing it in a way of like pure like materialism.
Well, they have to, because first off, they wanted to make the splash. David Beckham wanted to make the splash with the franchise. It was going to be in Miami. He's got the Moss brothers. They're building a new stadium. You've got everything going on leading up to 2026. Then you've got the stadium. And then the larger picture question that we've had here is, what do you do for an encore? Messi ain't hanging around forever. The Gulfstream Galacticos are not going to be hanging around forever. What do you do for an encore? Who do you bring in? Is it Lewandowski? Is it, I mean, Luka Modric has been, floated as an idea, but Luka Modric, I think, is 74 years old. He wouldn't be here forever. Sergi Roberto has been floated as an addition. Once, Luis Suarez's time is done. So what does Miami do for an encore? That, to me, is the larger question, because you're going into a new barn, and I think that you want to have Messi usher the club into this new barn. Then what do you do for an encore? Who do you bring in to maintain this momentum that you're trying to create artificially by bringing in some of the biggest stars on the planet? What do you do for round two? What do you do for the encore? That, to me, is the larger question, and will always be the larger question with Messi and friends. Emilio was hoping that Messi would bring the level of MLS up. You're not doing that with friends playing among themselves. Not at the moment.
No.
And so, you're focusing on the bright and shiny object, but I think it's incumbent upon each and every club, as you are making examples, and as we have those that watch the show, it's incumbent upon the local team to sit there and say, here's why you should show up. Here's what we're doing. Here's what we're doing in the community. Here's what we're doing on the field. I think that being there locally for your club, for your community, I think that what you build in a Seattle, with an LAFC with the 3252, in Atlanta, in Philly, in all of these different places where it is part and parcel to the fabric of the community. I think that's your long-term solution when it comes to sustainability in Major League Soccer.
Well, I also think too, I mean, the emphasis that a lot of these teams have put on in the academy and building the young presence in the community too. You have these players who go through the system, who go through, and then they end up playing for their home team. I mean, what better way is that? And I feel like that's something that is so pivotal too, is the development of these young players. And I think that's just so important that I don't think people harp on enough. Because, they look at the academy and they look at, the twos. They look at those younger ones and they think, oh, well, that's that development. But I mean, look at some of the stars that have come out of it from all over the league. How many homegrown players are now currently starting for their team? There's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, Rich knows about that in Philly. We know about that here in Atlanta. Columbus is developed through MLS Next Pro. So all these twos squads, all these second teams, they're the ones that are helping your sustainability also, if that's the way you choose to build with, once again, you can build with your pocketbook. You can build with your pocketbook and with your academy, which is what's being done in Atlanta and a couple of other places. And then the idea that you've got to have academy build plus everything else on top of it. I did not see the Tata congratulations to Laurent Courtois at the end of the match. Tata stood there, gave him a quick shake, nothing else but a sour look on his face. Heck, if I was Tata, I'd be pissed.
Yeah, I would be too.
You're at home and you lose to Montreal. You try to figure out a game plan, and there were chances late. Like I said, Schneider Borgelin had one right in front of the net inside the 6, and he skied it. So chances were there for Inter Miami. I think probably more for anything else. And like I said, and this is me just reading into Tata at the end of the match, he's more angry with missed opportunities than he was with Montreal getting the 3-2 win. I think that Tata went into that thinking that was a match he should have won at home against Montreal with the roster that he had, with the players that he had, with the chances that weren't created or that weren't finished, were created but weren't finished. So I think that was probably more sour on Tata's face for not coming out with at least a point, if not 3, as opposed to losing to Montreal.
I agree. I think, and I mean, even from what we know from Tata, from being here in Atlanta too, I mean, I think Tata likes to have that performance on the field in both areas. I mean, he's a very, very tactical coach, and he's a very good coach. And he has a lot of the talent, but, if you're not seeing results, yeah, I mean, I'd be pissed too. Especially you're at home. Like, we all know that MLS's schedule on the road is a lot harder than any other place. It's hard. It's very difficult to get a road win. And I mean, the fact that you lost at home, that's not good.
No, that's points that you surrendered. Amelia wanted to know about if this is more like an NHL-style model. I would say that basically the fans in the metro area of the club are the ones that are invested. What Darren Eales wanted to do with Atlanta United, I think, you're there, but Darren wanted to go the extra step. Darren wanted to make Atlanta United the Southeast's team. When you're on, at the time, Fox Sports Southeast, when you're on Fox Sports South, when you have the programming that you do, when you're having the friendlies and the exhibitions in Chattanooga and in Birmingham and in Huntsville and all these different places, you're doing that kind of outreach to make your club the Southeastern club. And so I think that that's what Atlanta United wanted to do, was to have the Southeast embrace Atlanta United, and Atlanta United not just be an Atlanta club, not just be the 404, the 470, and the 678, to be the 229, to be the 478, to be the 256, to be the 334, to be right there in addition to what you would have locally. But I mean, look, I'll give you an example. When it comes to what we saw from Atlanta United, the Lincoln County girls soccer team made the trip from Lincolnton to Atlanta to see the game. Lincolnton is 2.5 hours from Atlanta. Lincolnton is basically, you go to the last exit, the last major city before you get to Augusta. Go out I-20. And 2 hours, 10 minutes is the town of Thompson. There's no P, Thompson. It's in McDuffie County. You exit at Thompson and you travel north another 20 minutes. And you are right up against the South Carolina-Georgia border. And like literally it's like water that separates the two. There's a lake there that separates the two states. And on the Georgia side, on the western side of that lake, is the town of Lincolnton. Well known for high school football. They've won a lot of smaller classification state championships. And what Will Homskis is trying to build at Lincoln County over the last handful of seasons, and now both in boys and girls soccer, Lincoln County is making some waves in single A. They're growing a program. Will has invested in the school, and he's tried to find players that would be interested in playing the game, might not have a history in playing the game. We broadcast one of their playoff games last year. They came to Atlanta, drove 2.5 hours to Silverbacks Park, and were in the playoffs last year. We broadcast that playoff game last year. We caught up with Will on Soccer's in Session about what it's been like to grow the program as a football coach, Football. His dad is a well-known high school football coach here in the state of Georgia. Will is the head coach of the girls soccer team in Lincolnton. He thought that it would be a great idea to take his girls soccer team on a field trip to Mercedes-Benz Stadium to see Atlanta United and New England Revolution. A 2.5-hour drive under normal circumstances. I imagine that Will was having to drive one of those county school buses and tried to figure out where to park. And parking a school bus in and around Mercedes-Benz Stadium, that's a tall order. You can't do it in a parking deck. But Lincoln County, making the probably 3 by the time you're done, the 3-hour investment in their girls soccer team to go from Lincolnton to watch a match at Mercedes-Benz Stadium and turn around and go home. That's the kind of impact that you're seeing Atlanta United make in not just the Atlanta area, but in the state of Georgia and in the Southeast. I was at the gift shop, full disclosure. I was at the gift shop in line with the Hoff, with Joe Fryhofer, and we were trying to figure out what to buy and all these kinds of things, because traditionally, if we don't buy it early, we ain't getting it. So we're in line getting ready to go into the gift shop at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And I thought I saw a Lincoln County high school sweatshirt. Turned out I was right. You see that kind of investment and you see what kind of impact you can make. And like I said, it is a local example. And like I said, I'm sure it's the same in other markets and other places. But from the beginning of the franchise, Darren Eales has wanted to make an impact in not just the state of Georgia, but in the Southeast. And like I said, you're seeing it with the exhibition games and the friendlies and such. But when you've got a team from a small high school, 2.5 hours under normal driving circumstances from Atlanta, making the drive to the home opener for Atlanta United, that's the kind of impact that you're making. So I think that it is up to each club to figure out the kind of impact that they want to make, whether local or otherwise. But I think that what you're seeing with Atlanta United specifically, because that's anecdotal evidence that I have in front of me, it's not just the local, it is the regional impact that you can have in doing something like that.
Definitely. I mean, I think that's just, it's so important, I think, just for developing the game as a whole. I mean, when I was growing up, soccer was big in like more of that club aspect. You play for club a little bit and then that was kind of it. Like I didn't play soccer in high school. I played it as a club, as an extracurricular, just outside on the weekends. And that was kind of it. And I stopped playing when I was 13. And that was kind of it. But I still love soccer, but really it was just watching U.S. men's, U.S. women's national team. I didn't really know much about MLS until Atlanta United kind of started brewing. But I think that goes to show how important it is to develop a team and to be committed to the community because of just how, soccer in the streets is a huge example, especially with what they do sometimes with Atlanta United as well. I think it's so important to develop and to get those teams and get kids and get people excited about playing soccer. I think that's awesome. You have to be invested in the local community as well and not just the big picture of it all.
Yeah.
If you focus on building and developing those communities and that culture all over and in those smaller little places, that's what's going to make the biggest difference in the world. And I think that's so cool. That's awesome.
Emilio's kind of just wondering who the league's trying to recruit with Messi. He's become jaded over the past year, understandably so. I think you're trying to bring in that casual fan because, once again, you've got this new deal with Apple, and you're trying to get subscribers. And that's why you see this heavy churn of all this Messi content, even though apparently Messi is not doing any kind of real press conference-y stuff with or any post-match availabilities with Inter Miami, despite the number of requests from local and national media. Major League Soccer, they've got a new contract. They're trying to make Apple happy, and they're trying to get their numbers going, and they're trying to add subscribers. So what do? You cater to the folks that might know Suarez, might know Messi, might know Alba, might know Busquets. And to Rich's point, as he said, as a Eurosnob friend once told him, when the Union signs someone I've seen on Saturday mornings, then I'll care about them. And the guy is an American who's a Chelsea fan.
Figures.
So you're getting that kind of a response. And so that's part of the local, the tough part of this that has to do with the local franchises, winning over those fans of other clubs internationally and say, hey, we got just as much of a cool thing here. And so I think that's part of the obstacle that Major League Soccer clubs face. And I know that a lot of the other clubs in Major League Soccer, they look at what's going on in Inter Miami, and they're like, okay, well, that's cool. How do you make the rules even for the rest of us? And, it's like, okay, you're letting them do this. What can we do about it? And I think, once again, it comes down to each club and how they want to attack their level of success and do it in their way. So,
yeah, absolutely.
You're looking.
Listen.
Yeah.
He said he was a Chelsea supporter. That's all I need to know. That's all I needed to know. As someone who supports a club that literally is, again, just like Miami, buying so many players and not seeing any of the results. Listen, hey,
Mhm.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. A couple of other bits and pieces of news. I know we wanted to talk about what was said in Crossing Broad. Put a bookmark in that. It's not going anywhere, especially since Philadelphia is not playing until the weekend. Probably talk about it tomorrow. So, Rich, remind me about Crossing Broad. I've got the bookmark up on the laptop, but remind me about the Crossing Broad piece and what Philadelphia has to face. So we'll get into that. That's not going anywhere.
I will bookmark the link as well. That way we'll talk about it tomorrow.
Crew 2 have named Kelvin Jones their new head coach. Remember, Laurent Courtois is now the head coach at Montreal, so they were trying to find a new head coach for Crew 2 as we get ready for the next pro season. Kelvin Jones, 7 seasons with Crew Academy. He's been promoted to be the new head coach at Columbus Crew 2. The U.S. men's roster for Nations League Final Four will be announced at 2:40 this afternoon on Golosso's UCL pregame show, so keep an eye on that. We mentioned what's going on with all the other activities today. All right. So also now, for those of you that are interested in Chelsea and Club America on July 31st at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, tickets now on sale via Ticketmaster. So Chelsea's tour, July 31st against Club America, now on sale at Ticketmaster. So keep an eye on that one as well. And also, before we go, once again, requested required reading. And once again, it comes from our friends at Yosemar Football. And I don't know if our resident Evertonians want to know about this, but our friends at Yosemar Football, 777, and this is their headline. Once again, it's Paul Brown and Philippe Auclair. 777 Partners has done business with a Russian oligarch. One of its founding members has links with another. Both oligarchs long been accused of having close ties with Vladimir Putin. That's at Yosemar Football, JOSIMAR Football, FOTBALL. And that's their recent investigation as their look into 777 Partners continues, as 777 is trying to become financially stable enough to get a check mark from the Premier League to be able to buy Everton and keep their own financial interests afloat, and then add a Premier League side to their coffers. And I don't know if they're going to pass the standards test, but that's just me. So new article from our friends at Yosemar Football about 777 Partners, probably getting into that tomorrow. Once again, remember, and Lazio did finally confirm that Sadi has resigned and his assistant, Martuscello, now takes over. Also, remember, looks like it's 6 and 8 tonight. Maddie, Jason, and I will be at Riverwood for Riverwood hosting Wheeler across the network, soccerdownhere.mixler, mixlr.com, and we'll go over those two matchups. Thursday, we actually have a day off. But then Friday, Griffin and Perry down in Middle Georgia. It'll be great to catch up with our friends down there with the Perry Panthers. Big region match with Griffin and Perry, doubleheader there, 5:30 and 7:30. Saturday, once again, Orlando City B and Atlanta United 2 up in Kennesaw. Hope to see you there. If you're not there, it'll be on the network, and then we all regroup at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on Sunday night for Orlando City and Atlanta United. So very, very busy next couple of days here on the network and for all of us as we keep an eye on what's going on here in the world of soccer. Maddie, what is on your mind before we go?
Always fun stuff. Excited to go to get back into the swing of things and get to call these games tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm excited for the twos to start up. It's going to be a lot of fun. MLS Next Pro, let's go.
Yep, MLS Next Pro, let's go. Hutch is wondering if Ted Turner still owns a lot of Ticketmaster. I don't know. I don't know
either.
I don't know if Ted Turner has still any kind of thing that's attached to Ticketmaster. And Abby's like, if I wasn't a season ticket holder, wouldn't be paying for the Apple MLS package. She just did a survey for Major League Soccer, asked a lot about the thoughts in advertising and other tournaments, Messi coming to Major League Soccer, etc. Dell, you think it would make even more of an impact if Messi spoke English, just like Gregor Parkey said about learning the language overseas? I don't think so. I mean, I think you want to hear from Messi. I wouldn't care. Honestly, wouldn't care. Wouldn't care what language it's in. You know, even if he's, you know, if it's translated, fine. That doesn't matter to me. I would just like to hear from him But once again, that is up to Major League Soccer, and that is up to Inter Messi and Messi and friends. So once again, remember tonight, 6 and 8, and it just went out on the Riverwood social medias and on their Twitters. So girls at 6, boys at 8. We'll be there tonight. Maddie, Jason, and I will have it for you. SoccerDownHere.mixlr.com. Back at it again 9:05 tomorrow. Tomorrow, hopefully Jason joins us in the 9:30 half hour to talk about the Purple team. Nico Morena joining us at 10:30 to talk about stuff from the Pacific perspective when it comes to Major League Soccer. And remember, we'll try to get in the Crossing Broad conversation about Philadelphia and where they are at their financial crossroads and their financial interests. So, Maddie, since you're back for the first time in a while, why don't you go ahead and send us home?
This is so exciting. I only got to do this one other time, and I'm doing it now.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you guys so much for listening today, and we'll see you guys next time. And because that is the end of the show, that means that John gets to do this.